They said you were the best in the Parsec.
Welcome to Parsec Passion,
a podcast covering Andor, Cassian Andor on Disney Plus. We cover Disney Plus Star Wars shows, any show that Luthen might enjoy. My name's Bubba, and with me, as always, is somebody who we've been telegraphing their death since they appeared. It's Catfish.
Bubba, I am so happy to be joining you today. I'm forever grateful that our listeners are unlike Dedra and don't mind wasting time.
Heck yeah. We're going to be breaking down Andor Season 1, Episode 9. Nobody's listening! With an exclamation point on the end. That's when you know a title is serious. Under intense scrutiny while imprisoned, Cassian makes allies plan an impossible escape. Ooh, that sounds thrilling. Was the episode thrilling? Plus, we're going to be answering your great feedback. Double M is going to tackle the music, and we're going to have our Bounty Hunter Guild battle, where we debate the question, would you rather double P?
Double P?
Pass peacefully, like Yulof, or go down fighting and take people with you?
I love it.
Episode 9, Nobody's Listening. Catfish, what is your rating out of 10?
I'm going to give this 9 out of 10, what I like to call double Ds.
Wait, double Ds?
Yeah. Dominatrix Dedras. I mean, she really knows how to put it to people, and I loved it in a very non-Disney way, Bubba. There was so much fun here tonight. Everybody's gathering. Finally, even Kino, who's like gruff and angry, is starting to get the idea, you know what, maybe getting the heck out of here isn't such a bad idea after all. Maybe being the supervisor of a sinking ship is not so good after all. We found out some surprises. We got some relations. Vel and Mon Mothma. Who knew? I didn't know. I just love the show. I mean, even when it feels kind of like table setting, there's so much interesting going on. I love all these characters. This show's just great.
Okay, well, you went 9 out of 10. That's incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Will you be able to guess my rating for episode 9?
Bubba, I am going to say you are going to give this 9.5 double Ds.
That is incorrect. I'm not even using the infamous double D scale. I'm giving this 6 out of 10 double S's.
Double S's?
Well, double S is when you watch an episode filled with things you already know, and you're like, this show can't be saved. But there's one character who can save this episode. Syril saved this episode. You're telling me Cassian's going to try to escape from the prison? Tell me something I don't already know. Tell me that old man you've been telegraphing is going to pass away since the beginning? Tell me something I don't already know. Tell me that Dedra's going to torture Bix. Tell me something I don't already know. But tell me that Syril got a haircut and is going to go total creepy love on Dedra out on a public sidewalk? Oh, hell yes. I cannot believe how much I loved creepy Syril in this episode. He was wonderful. He was great. What the hell is going on? This is a crazy Disney family show. And you've got Syril being an incel. I love it. Syril saved the episode for me. I very much felt like it was a filler, like, okay, just get me to the 3rd episode in this 3-episode arc. Cyril's so unpredictable / so predictable. He's so pathetic / energetic. I am down with Syril. 6 out of 10. Syril, 10 out of 10. Hell to the yield.
Yeah, I need to double S you, Bubba.
Me?
Yeah, slap you silly for giving this a 6. That is just wrong. Look, I don't know. Maybe it deserves a lower rating if you compare it to the rest of these episodes, but to any other show going on right now, except for my new fantasy, my new crazy show, Devil's Hour, I love. Besides that, Bubba, by the way,
yeah,
Devil's Hour features more of the guy I need to see, which is Syril Suck Up Linus is in the Devil's Hour. He's in a bunch of it. That's the only thing that could make this show go from a 9 to a 10. A 6 is outrageous, and I think you should be spaced, Bubba, right out the lock.
Who cares what I think? Who cares what Catfish thinks? We want to know, listeners, what do you think? What do you rate episode 9? Nobody's listening. Write to us on social media and let us know. We're at Double PHQ. That's the word double, the single letter P for podcast, HQ for headquarters, at Double PHQ on Twitter, Instagram. If you've left Twitter because Elon Musk is creepy and gone to Instagram because Mark Zuckerberg owns that, write to us and let us know what you think. If you're watching this on YouTube, the comments are right there. We need you to like this video, and we need you to tell Catfish you're exactly right. This is a 9 out of 10. You need to tell me, Bubba, you're an idiot. 6 out of 10 is too low. Write those comments right now. We want to know. We're going to break down this episode in full, but Catfish, I hear you have some quick hits for episode 9.
Is Dedra just full-on 100% scary, or is she scary but also sexy in a strict school marm kind of way?
To any listener who heard that question and immediately unsubscribed, I apologize. I miss you in absence. For everybody still here, this is Star Wars. It's space fantasy. We should have fun. But let me say that I was a little boy, and I saw Slave Leia in that costume in Return of the Jedi, and I was like, she's beautiful. Are you an angel? I saw lovely Daisy Ridley as Rey, and I thought, boy, she's beautiful. Dedra, she can get it. She is crazy. She just knows what she wants, and people are always attracted to powerful, confident people. And so Dedra is terrible. She is a fascist, but is she single? So I'm being silly. Catfish, you asked that question. What do you think?
When she said, "You're in my net, Bix," I have to admit I got a little frisson of excitement. But then later on, she's talking about Marva, and she says, "We're on her full time." And I got a full-on frisson.
Okay, let's edit. Yes, there we go. Okay, so listeners, what do you think? What do you think of ISB Officer Dedra? She's really great at her job, which is terrible for the galaxy, but also fascinating and lovely to watch. Catfish, you got another quick hit. What do you got for us?
We found out that Mon Mothma is cousins with Vel tonight. Shocking. Okay, which rebel is in more danger, though? Mon Mothma or Cousin Vel?
Well, Mon Mothma does appear in the movie Return of the Jedi. So unless she's a clone, Mon Mothma is going to make it somehow. Her family may not make it, but Mon Mothma's going to make it at least, let me do the math on this, she's going to make it at least 8 more years, if I have the timing right. Cousin Vel made the terrible mistake of not appearing in the original trilogy. So Cousin Vel may be the rebel in more danger. What do you think?
When I asked this question, I was going to use the same wise-ass answer as you, that we see Mon Mothma later on, so clearly she's not in as much danger. I would posit to you, Cousin Vel is not in the further movies because she just got out.
Right.
She is completely fine, and it is more dangerous with the Vipers in the Senate. And Mon Mothma is going to be on the run. But Cousin Vel, she's going to have more valets carrying around in little bags. One of them looked like it might have had a little dog in it. I mean, she is living the life, Bubba.
Man, Cousin Vel, you and Cinta just run off somewhere and be happy. Yeah, exactly.
Syril is definitely a stalker, but is he a double S?
Double S.
Scary stalker, or is he a triple S?
Triple S.
Silly but successful stalker.
He did achieve in this episode his objective. I want to let Dedra know how much she means to me and how she has awakened my purpose for life. I noticed things I've never noticed before. Birds singing, flowers blooming, traffic lights. Thank you, Leslie Nielsen, R.I.P. And so he was successful in that goal. Will he be successful in his next goal? I think if he's on the show, he has to be. Why else is he here? So somehow I will say he is a silly but successful stalker.
I am going to say the same thing because also, Bubba, I think he gets through to her because he's like, you've given me purpose in life. Everything seems wonderful again. And she's thinking, oh, no, not another one. And then he's like, yes, we have to crush the rebels. That's what gives me purpose in life, crushing rebels. I'm not interested in any kind of personal interaction. Any kind of personal interaction has been ruined by my mom. I have a strange complex about women now. But if it's about crushing people underfoot, I'm there. So I think that is eventually going to get through to Dedra. And I think I have said this before, but I'm projecting she is going to use and abuse him in some way, and Syril going to be gone, but Syril will have served his purpose.
All right, Catfish, I have a question for you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
If some person that you liked showed up at your workplace and said, "Oh, I really like you," you would love it. So there is a small chance, probably not a big chance, but there's a small chance that Dedra's, excited, like this is positive. So if somehow they do become a couple,
Gross.
What is going to be their ship name? Is it going to be Sidra or Dedril?
Oh man, I think Dedril is more like it. I mean, I don't know. Being a dominatrix is her job, but at home she wants to be bossed around.
Listen, I can see little baby Syrils running around. And their collars are going to be up.
Gross. All right, Bubba, look, every week we identify somebody, probably incorrectly, who is Cassian's sister. Cassian's been searching for his sister. Bubba thinks she's going to show up or that she's already shown up. I maybe disagree. So, Bubba, who is your nominee for who is Cassian's sister in this week's episode?
Boy, we are really in deep, deep trouble.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure every female actress who appeared in this episode, I have named as Cassian's sister.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, including Dedra.
Right. So, yeah, including Edie, Dedra, Lita, Mon Mothma. I haven't said Mon Mothma. Okay, there. Mon Mothma is Cassian's sister. It has to be. Mainly because I think she's the only female I haven't mentioned yet. That's my Cassian sister of the week.
My Cassian sister of the week is Olaf.
Who knows what that yellow gas did to her back on Canary.
Mm-hmm.
Canary. Where was she on? She was definitely on Canary. R.I.P. Cassian sister. Hey, listeners, if you like listening to us talk silly stuff about Star Wars shows, you can also hear us talk silly stuff about other great TV shows. We're currently covering a show called Magpie Murders, which in the United States is airing on PBS all around the world. It's airing on things like BritBox and Sony LIV. You can find it and watch it and try to solve a murder mystery with the two of us. It's real fun. It's called Let's Solve Magpie Murders, and you can find that on our Double P Podcast feed. So it's not on the Parsec Passion Podcast feed. You have to search Double P Podcast. 1 week from today, Netflix is going to release season 5 of that fictional historical drama, as it's recently been labeled The Crown. And our good buddy, our musical expert, Double M. Matt Murdoch, has been covering all the seasons of The Crown with his good partner in Crumpets, Holly Hunt Pants. And so you can listen to Lilibet Pod. So search Lilibet, Lilibet, Lilibet Pod on anywhere you get podcasts and hear some great in-depth talk about the great historical show, The Crown, on Netflix. And then 2 weeks from today, in 2022, the creators of Dark, the hit Netflix German show from Germany, as we like to call it, they're releasing their follow-up show, 1899. We're going to be covering that on that Double P Podcast. So wherever you download podcasts, search Double P Podcast. You can hear some great talk about some fun TV shows. The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power, just wrapped up an 8-episode season. Once again, 8 episodes only. They're going to make another season of 8 episodes, but it won't be out for 2 years. It's not going to be out till 2024. House of the Dragon on HBO Max just wrapped up a 10-episode season. They haven't even started filming season 2, and guess what? It won't be back until 2024. Andor, as we're seeing, is a 12-episode season 1. In November of 2022, aka this month, they're going to be filming 12 more episodes. But guess what? They're going to be filming these 12 episodes from November of 2022 all the way to August of 2023. And that means the show won't be back most likely until September of 2024. Is this going to be good for Andor because it'll give a lot of people time to find this great show and catch up? Or will this make all the people who've enjoyed Andor forget about it 2 years from now? What says you, Catfish?
I mean, it won't help with the momentum of it, but I think there'll be another wave of excitement. I think for myself, I'm going to watch this with Ms. Catfish after the whole thing is over. And then maybe we'll watch it again before it starts up again. That's what we've done for every Last Kingdom season. We've watched the entire series to catch us up. This is a great show.
Listeners, what do you think? Once again, if you're on YouTube, go down in those comments. Tell us what you think. If you want to tell us on social media, we're at PHQ on Twitter and Instagram, Facebook.com/PHQ. Bit of Andor trivia for you listeners and for Catfish. We got our podcast start covering HBO's Game of Thrones, the big international hit drama. And we covered that on our podcast entitled The Joffrey Podcast. And we've continued to cover the House of the Dragon on that podcast feed entitled The Joffrey Podcast. So trivia question for you listeners and for Catfish. An actor on Andor appeared on the show Game of Thrones. Yes, I know what you're thinking. Partagaz appeared on Game of Thrones as Qyburn. Well, we're not talking about Qyburn/Partagaz. Oh, you're thinking, well, Vel appeared as the waif in the House of Black and White in Bravos. No, we're not talking about Vel. But in the final season of Game of Thrones, season 8, there's a character called Martha who appeared in 2 episodes of Game of Thrones. The actor who plays Martha appears as a character in multiple episodes in Andor. Catfish, can you guess which Andor character played Martha on the final season of Game of Thrones?
Oh my God. Can you tell me what the character Martha was on Game of Thrones?
It might give it away, so I'll
I'm going to say,
give you a hint.
Edra?
No, good guess, love it.
Edie, sorry, I keep saying Edra.
No.
Oh boy.
It was not the actress who plays Edie, Syril's mother. But okay, here's your hint. Martha appeared in 2 episodes, The Long Night, where the Night King was defeated, and The Bells, where Daenerys kind of had a bad day. So Martha appeared in those 2 episodes, and all of her scenes were with Varys the Spider because she was one of his little birds. Can that give you a hint of who Martha on Game of Thrones was?
Bubba, I'm completely stumped, but I know our audience members won't be.
Listeners, you may remember that Varys on Game of Thrones used little birds, aka kids, as spies. And so who was a female kid, especially in that The Bells episode, where this character reported to Varys and said, Daenerys is not eating, aka we can't poison her. So who was a little girl in season 8? And who is a little girl on Andor? It's Mon Mothma's daughter, Leda. Leda was...
Oh, she's the worst.
Well, she tried to poison Daenerys, and that didn't go too well, so she may have been the worst on Game of Thrones as well. Listeners, we hope you loved that trivia. Okay, Catfish, we've rambled way too long. Let's get into this episode. Catfish, we've got 3 planets to visit.
Holy cow.
On this episode, we've got the center of the galaxy, Coruscant. We've got in the cold mud on Ferrix, and we've got underwater prison Narkina 5. Where do you want to go first?
Holy cow, Bubba. You know, I usually like to go from least exciting to most exciting, but since I gave this episode a 9 and you gave it a 6, obviously I was excited everywhere. So you tell me where you want to start tonight, Bubba.
Let's start where I believe the episode began, on Ferrix, where Dedra, let's quote her, I don't like wasting time. You wasted all of our time because Bix knew you were going to torture her. You knew you were going to torture her. Viewer Bubba knew you were going to torture her. So it was a lot of torture. Any thoughts about her buddy in torture, Dr. Gorst?
I realized 2 things listening to Gorst.
All right, okay.
Number 1, that there is a maxim that he proved true.
Let's hear it.
Choose a job you love and you'll never have to work a day in your life. I mean, his glee and excitement for it were amazing. Also,
yeah.
It sounds like he's come up with the serious version of Monty Python's The Killing Joke, only instead of laughing, it's completely 180 degrees from that.
There's nothing like the cries of children dying in agony to make you give up, Cassian.
Yeah, I love it. He's like, we listened to it and the people were all shaking and huddled in the corner, but then we realized the super good stuff is the kids. We're going to give you the stuff that's not just the crying in the corner. We're going to give you the creme de la creme.
Well, maybe they'll give us Leda crying at one point. We'll all love that. Our girl Dedra, she's got a couple of stone cold lines. She's like, are you a thief or are you a thief?
Ooh.
And then the classic, The very worst thing you can do right now is bore me.
Bubba,
Cool.
sounds like Dedra was boring you in this section.
She was. And then I saw Dr. Gorst pull out those giant Beats headphones. And I thought, do I want to hear kids crying, or would it make me give up the ghost quicker if it was K-pop? And so I couldn't quite figure it out. Bix gave it up, Dedra wants to keep her alive. Nobody really cares about Pac except a guy who wants to hang him in the center of the square as a symbol. Not good.
Well, Bubba, they are going to have what I like to call a triple P in the square.
Very worried, but okay, a triple P.
It's a PAC's prettification project. You know what could we hang over there? Oh, how about PAC?
Deck the block with lots of Pac. Bix ends the episode in a prison cell. We find out that they're not going to question or torture Marva just yet. They're going to wait and use her as bait to get Cassian. Mm-hmm. Any thoughts on what's going to happen to our friends on Ferrix?
Sounds like no good things. Once again, proving never trust a Tim with 2 M's.
I want to say, though, Dedra, as brilliant as she's been, her idea of, we don't need to worry about Marva. She's old and frail. Well, remember, Marva was looking at tunnels underneath the hotel/ISB base.
Yeah, and she fell over, Bubba. I think she's completely right. You don't want to push Marva.
Marva's going to have a strength of Ewoks when it comes to get revenge. And
all right, so this is great. We completely disagree on this. We completely disagree. You think it's a mistake. I think it's the right thing to do, because if you push Marva too far, she'll just fall over and you won't get any more information out of her.
Oh, terrible. Hey, let's take a dive to the underwater prison on Narkina 5. Catfish, you felt that this episode, Narkina 5, gave us some double K.
Double K, I certainly did. It gave us some Keef encouragement.
I thought you were going to say Keef incarcerated.
Bubba, I swerve.
That old prisoner who the main trait he has is he's old, Yulof. He's on Andor's team. He's got a hurt hand. And of course, just like Danny Glover, he's 41 days away from retirement. He's got 41 shifts left, and he gone. So Andor, this is very true of Andor. It is a consistent character. Andor's in that prison, but he is very observant. What's the factory routine? He's already got a panel in the refresher, a.k.a. the bathroom, that he can remove and start slicing on pipes. Andor, he's observant. He's great for you when you want to on a caper, don't you think?
I mean, he is spocking everything out. I do like his attention to detail.
Prisoner comes in. The guards who escort the prisoner in aren't wearing the special boots, a.k.a. that railing there isn't, and they put their hands on the rails, so the rails aren't electrified. The floor probably at that specific spot isn't electrified. This is pretty good. What's not pretty good is these prisoners as they march to, from the barracks back to the factory floor where they work, back to the barracks. They're getting news that things didn't go well down on 2.
But luckily, we have a different double K this time.
Oh, wait, this isn't the Keef encouragement?
No, this is the calming Kino.
Boy, Kino. Let's pause real quick. And Andy Serkis's character, last week, he seemed terrible. He seemed, I've got a bit of power. I got to do we found out in this episode, about 220 shifts, and then I get out of here. And he was almost as big a villain as the actual guards, but he really started to come around. And certainly by the end of the episode, he's ready to get out of Dodge. Any thoughts on Andy Serkis's very intense Kino?
Well, that's what I was going to say. You're like, oh, what a variety of character. I don't know. Even when he's changed his mind, he's still just a gruff, grumbly son of a bitch. Growling.
Okay. And Keef is pitching, let's escape. Kino's like, no way, Keef. But Keef and Kino are going to be a true double K and get the double L out of there after they find out down on Unit 2, 100 men got fried. And why in the world did they get fried? They got fried because they realized that, oh, this person who got released on a different level, he didn't get released. He just got shipped down here. Not good. frying. Not good.
Bubba, I'm just wondering, do they all end up in level 2? Because if they swapped them in different levels, everybody would know by now.
You would send them lower, and that's why it takes so long for the messages to get up. Like you start at the top, and then you think you're getting freed, but you're being brought lower and lower, so they couldn't tell. And you put on like maybe the night shift if you work the day shift. I don't know. But
information eventually does get up. It seems like so. Mm-hmm. It seems like maybe this is a plot point that shouldn't be investigated too closely.
Catfish, the episode is entitled "Nobody's Listening." What did you think about Keith/Cassian's speech about that?
Well, first, he does say, nobody's listening, nobody's listening. He yells, nobody's listening. And then after they find out about everyone fried, Cassian tells Kino all of a sudden, Kino, the guy who's always like, shut up, don't say anything. Now he's telling Kino, we have to be careful. Cassian, make up your damn mind.
I was convinced that nobody was listening. And so right now, probably Yulof got the best outcome. Is he's out of this prison. He's free. He's released. You have a stroke, they don't try to help you. They try to kill you and get you put you in a bag. But by doing that, hey, finally, Kino answered the question. How many guards are on each level? Never more than 12 on each level. Could all those prisoners, as long as the floor isn't electrified, take down 12 guards? What do you think?
The question is, are the guards more on alert now, or more just like at any time we could just fry the F out of people? I mean, you can understand why they might have lost their attention to detail. However, they did seem to have it when they brought Keith in.
Oh, they did, without question. They really did. Well, how about this? You keep mentioning these 3-episode arcs. Tony Gilroy said that last week was the beginning of an arc. This must be the middle. Next week would be the 3rd episode. Is the prison break next week? Or
Absolutely.
Did they hold that 2 weeks for episode 11 and 12?
No, I think 11 and 12 is them getting away and getting the band together.
Okay. All right. It'll be interesting. Listeners, what do you think? Are we going to see the prison break next week, or are we going to have to wait until the grand conclusion to season 1? Once again, at WPHQ, let us know.
And as I said last week, I assume that Andy Serkis is around for a while. So maybe we don't see the end of Andy Serkis until the end of season 2. So I say he makes it out of here.
Let's hope for his sake. Or maybe let's hope he gets to level 2. My favorite planet is the planet in the center of the galaxy. It's Coruscant. Skyscrapers everywhere you want, and lovely ladies at ISB all the time.
Not to mention scintillating Syril.
Scintillating Syril. Also, though, I've joked that Mon Mothma looked like my ex, except with red hair instead of blonde. And Mon Mothma's a fascinating character. She is in the Senate chamber. She's given a speech, and it has suddenly become a bit like the United States' Senate chamber when somebody gives a speech. Rather than, showing some decorum and letting a person speak and then you respond, instead it's, boo, long live the Empire.
Yeah, but some people are shouting, listen to her, she's correct.
I know, but I mean, that isn't really organized government. It's organized chaos. And,
well, Bubba, let me ask you a question. Last time she was speaking to the Senate, no one was listening. What would you prefer? No one listening, or people listening and voicing their feelings about what you're saying? At least they're listening.
Okay, but there were people who were literally turning their Senate pods off. Like there's a little light around it, and they're like, let's turn this off. I got to hit happy hour at Dex's Diner. So, Okay, I guess you do want an empty Senate chamber is probably the worst. So I guess if I'm going to get booed, at least that means they're listening. I'm with you. Okay, is you happy that you brought me to that side?
I'm happy that I browbeat you. Yes.
Okay, so she's defeated. She gets in her car to go back home. The Imperial driver, who's really spying on her, this toady, tells her, "Hey, your cousin's back." And Catfish, who is Mon Mothma's cousin?
It's Vel, but you probably guessed that, Bubba. I had no idea.
I had no idea either. Cousin Vel is in town. She's actually been in town before. Remember, she was in town and then got told, you got to go kill Cassian. And so she brought little Lita a present. And Lita, good to know, is also a very consistent character, meaning consistently crap. She looked fine in her dress. Good work, Lita. Vel and Mon are cousins. How do you feel about this? Two cousins working with Luthen. And there's an important point about how they took a vow. What do you think about this?
If they took a vow, certainly Vel got the crap end of the stick. I mean, she ends up on this crud-hole planet doing a job that probably had 0.5% chance of being successful. I mean, she's really got skin in the game.
She does. And she's also, I'll just kind of jump to the end of her story. She's also Batman, where literally, they always tell Batman, you gotta keep up appearances as Playboy Bruce Wayne. Go spend some money. Go have fun. And Mon Mothma tells Vel the same thing. Hey, you gotta keep up your cover story. Go look like a spoiled rich girl, Vel. You gotta do it. So Vel is, I'm Batman.
If Vel doesn't want to do it, I'll do it, Bubba.
At the ISB, Dedra is just once again 100% efficient. She's made the connection between the Altani job and Cassian Andor. Why? Well, because when he last showed up on Ferrix, he had a lot of credits, a lot of riches in his pockets, and he had shaved his beard. That's enough. He must be guilty.
Now, Bubba, when we do the Joffrey podcast, especially the first series, Game of Thrones, we had a lot of cut scenes that we got. We haven't been getting, this Star Wars notoriously silent, but we do have some cut dialogue from this scene.
I thought it was great of Star Wars to release this edited, deleted scene dialogue. Yeah. I thought it was great.
So it's our boy Partagas and Dedra's second in command, and Partagas says, isn't it normal that he shaved? And his assistant says, no, sir. He always seems to have about 6 days of scruff on him. And Partagas says, how is that possible? Unknown, sir.
You got to do a lot of work. You got to have the perfect razor to have a 6-day scruff always.
This is like the Don Johnson plus 3 days.
Catfish, I love that you brought up Dedra's number 2, because there's a part of me that thinks, wait, he gets to speak at these meetings? Is he trying to pull a Dedra on Dedra and, hey, use somebody else to get up the ranks? Very interesting. I think we need to watch that guy who's coming between Dedra and her true number 1, who, Syril.
Well, this is the first of 2 times that Dedra's number 2 oversteps his bounds. We'll get to that one later.
Now, Edie, the mother from hell. Last week I said, I don't need any more breakfast scenes. They are good, but...
You're wrong. Clearly this one showed you were wrong because she is so good.
Oh, my God. Syril, Mom, you've been in my private box. I have ways of knowing. I have ways of knowing if you've been in my private box. Syril, move out. Get your own place, for the love of God.
I mean, that is some awkward dialogue. I mean,
What does he have in his private box? Let's figure it out.
A letter of commendation is just a standard form letter, but he thinks it was done especially for him. He's got his first ever starched collar. Is it there?
You never forget your first.
And now, in there, he has got a cup that Dedra discarded that's got a little lipstick on the rim.
Oh, man. When I drink it, it's like an indirect kiss. Now, have you been like this? How is this galaxy like ours? The mom hates everything you do, but once she finds out you've been promoted at work, hey, party, Uncle Harlow, did you hear about Syril? He got a promotion.
I got to tell him he is in good again. And, Bubba, it just goes to show how suspicious Syril is. There's so many good S words that when he said he got a promotion, I thought he was lying to her. No, it turns out he really did get one that he attributes, of course, to his soulmate, Dedra.
He has to. Now, which breakfast would you want to be a member at? Would you want to be for the breakfast with Edie and Syril, or would you want to be at Mon Mothma's place for breakfast, where it's her her husband Perrin and her daughter Lita. And in this case, we do have cousin Vels over. Which is the better breakfast place, Catfish?
I mean, I think this one is better because Perrin tries to get in a shot.
Oh, man.
Oh, man, it is so good. Where he says, you need a widower at this point. Who's left of any value at this age? And then Vel knocks back with, yeah, all the good ones are taken.
Ouch.
And what's great is Perrin doesn't even realize that he just got dissed.
Never. He would never understand such heresy. Perrin, I've come around on him. You're calling Vel an old maid because people in your custom get married as teenagers. Hilarious. But now, I fear Lita and what trouble she could cause. Last week, she's like, oh, Tay, you're around a lot. And this week, she tells cousin Vel, Mom's old boyfriend, Tay Colma, has been around. Lita is not good. But Perrin, once again, world-class Perrin. He's like, Vel, you haven't gone political and become boring. Oh, my God, your wife is political. You're indirectly calling her boring. Perrin, terrible.
He absolutely is. He just said Perrin loves his gilded cage.
Now, let's get to it. The highlight of the episode.
Absolutely.
I'm just a man standing outside the FBI waiting for a girl to tell her, thanks for the promotion. Oh, my God.
Oh, no. I'm sorry. The best is when he says, I just wanted to continue the conversation. And Dedra's like, this wasn't a conversation. That was an interrogation. Bubba, your boy Syril is the best.
Tomato. I mean, this guy, just being in your presence, I realized that life was worth living. I see this scene. I see Syril, who can't read a room, just going for it. And I decide right then and there, Syril Karn is a Hall of Fame TV character. He is a top 5 wonderful loon. And when this sounds ridiculous because, how is Dedra really responding? But I see him going so hard and I'm screaming at my TV, kiss.
Oh, gross.
Kiss you too.
Gross.
And you knew he was serious because his collar was about 6 inches tall. Hell to the
Yeah, just like a friend of mine once said, I'm at attention and I'm not even standing up.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there's one that, listeners, you just missed a great joke that we had to edit out for copyright concerns. Now, Dedra, she has to push away this wonderful man, Syril. She runs to her office, and her number 2 is there. Hey, we've captured a rebel pilot. This number 2 is truly number 2. What do you think about Dedra's assistant?
Well, and then she's like, oh, we got to send Gorst out there. He said, I've already done it. And she's like, yeah, that's good. Good job, number 2.
This is not cool. Not cool. And let's go ahead and just follow the ISB crew for a bit. They know a lot of things. This pilot they caught, and Dr. Gorst got the goods out of him. This pilot was using stolen Imperial equipment. He is part of the crew that works for this character called Anto Krieger. We haven't seen Anto Krieger yet, but he was mentioned last week. Luthen went to Forrest Whitaker's character and was like, listen, we need air cover for this heist. And the ISB knows about the heist. They know the plan.
Holy cow. Rut-roll, Bubba, rut-roll.
Yeah, not good. The rebels could really be in trouble. And as we know, Axis, or Luthen, he controls everything. If the Empire gets him and puts Dr. Gorst on him, he's going to give up Mon Mothma. He's going to give up Vel. This whole house of cards could completely collapse.
Holy cow. Speaking of collapsing, Bubba, Tay and Mon Mothma are talking about how to cover up the paperwork because she's missing 400,000 credits. Whoa. Holy cow, that is a lot. They need a banker in a business so big, Tay says, no one will be able to trace it. So he says, hey, I got my boy Davo Skulden. Davo Skulden, who Mon Mothma reacts to with a shiver. He's a thug. He's a mobster. And Tay's like, You know what? You got yourself into this mess.
Right.
What are we gonna? We got to get out of it.
As a complete aside,
Mhm.
these outfits, I don't even know how to describe them, what kind of real world lineage these outfits come from. But at a certain point, I'm looking at Tay's outfit and I'm like, I could not wear that in public. But if people wore that stuff in public, I'd wear that in public. That's I've come around and been like,
It almost feels like Bubba. He just came from performing in a kabuki play.
Hey, I'm saying it was like, that looks nice. It looks comfortable. Hey, catches the
Love
light. Good work.
That is everything for this 9-star rating episode. Nobody is listening. So, Bubba, it is time for our games. And the first game is obviously the Mandolicisious line of the episode. Either a funny line that caught your attention or a badass line. Bubba, I feel like we've said most of them because we could not hold back until we got to this point. So my first one is Edie, who basically, I didn't write it all down. I just wrote Edie, slam, 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 slam. And then our boy says, I've been promoted. And then she says, I knew they'd recognize your promise.
You're the worst. You're the worst. What? Promotion?
Oh, my God. And then Bubba's hero, Perrin Tavel. You need a widower at this point. Who's left of any value at this age? Vel, come back. All the good ones are taken. Side-eyeing Perrin. And then the triple S.
Wait, the triple S?
Yeah, the sappy, swooning Syril who says, just being in your presence, I realized that life was worth living. I realized there was justice and beauty in the galaxy. And he means it completely non-romantically. Way to go, Syril.
He got a haircut. Yeah. He means that also a bit romantically. Give Syril some love. That is going to be what couples now say as their vows.
Cyril's idea of romance is auditing some books on a planet. That's his idea. All right, so Bubba.
You haven't seen what he has in his private box.
No, but his mother has. All right, Bubba, which was your funny, Mandolicisious line of the episode?
I'm only voting for Syril in every vote from now on. How about you?
I'm going to vote Syril adjacent. I'm going to give it to Edie. I knew they'd recognize your promise. No. Oh, my God. All right, and here's the badass ones. Mostly, she says, talking about your boy who eventually became a decoration, hanging around. In the end, it was a very poor decision on his part. We learned everything we needed to know. Quite frankly, it hardly seems worth the price he's paid.
That is pretty badass, but I see you've also pulled Dedra telling Bix the worst thing you can do right now is bore me. That's pretty badass as well.
That is good. And then my last nominee is Keith saying we're cheaper than droids and easier to replace. But I only put this in here to show Bubba I was right, because that's exactly what I said last week when he said, why can't they use droids?
Terrible. So because she is Syril's soulmate, I'm going with Dedra.
Double S, Syril's soulmate. There's so many S's. Dedra, I'll go right with you. I'll say the worst thing you can do right now is bore me. So good.
Oh, not nice. Hey, what is nice, though, awkward transition, podcasters, is our good buddy Double M.
Double M.
Matt Murdock, who's at Musical Concepts on Twitter. Matt Murdock has his quadruple M.
The Matt Murdock's musical analysis.
That's it. So let's go to it this week.
Hey there, everybody. Matt here. Thank goodness I only have 41 shifts left to talk about Nicholas Petrell's music, because while it's not uninteresting, it's very hard to find something interesting to talk about each week thematically, like we have been able to do so for other Star Wars television shows. This approach is very different than what anybody has done with a Star Wars show before. It's really difficult to find things that I can present to you that are musically interesting for you, even though there's lots of things that I find musically interesting for myself. As we've talked about before, Nicholas Petrell is an atmospheric composer. But one thing that I found in this particular episode is the fact that he did use a progression throughout the entire episode. It wasn't applied to character, wasn't even really applied to story or location or anything, but it was kind of a motif that kind of carried the whole episode. You found it in various parts. And that progression sounded like this. You heard it very much in the background as Bix was being interrogated initially. You also heard it as we were shifting back to Andor's location from the big ISB meeting. But one of the things that makes this progression interesting is the fact that it doesn't resolve until the end. The first chord really has nothing to do with the second chord. It's almost like there's a complete change, and where the change happens is between the first chord and the second chord, and then the second chord resolves down to the first chord in the harmony. The difference between the first and the second chord is going from a 1 minor down to the minor sixth, but normally that chord is major, which would keep you centered in that first chord's key. Instead, here, Dedril changes it to a minor, which allows it to actually resolve to the third chord. So it's a transition of 3 chords that really aren't that related to each other. And this is what happens when I don't have interesting thematic material to talk about. I get off in this tangent of talking about musical terms that probably don't mean a whole lot to you. So I'll try not to do this too often, but I did find it interesting how this particular motif was used in several different places throughout the episode that didn't really seem related to each other. But hey, I'm trying to make this interesting. One other thing about this particular episode was the intro. As you know, we're getting the Andor theme every single time at the beginning of each episode, but they're being treated in different ways. This time around, I'd like to call it the techno version. Lots more synths and everything. And there was a chord that kept stabbing across the bar. What I mean by across the bar, it kind of went against the steady pulse of the beat and instead ended up creating syncopation by the fact that the different chords were emphasized. It still ends up on the one after a certain period of time, which is what brings it all back home. But that particular rhythm and that particular voicing of chords is used a lot in techno music, believe it or not. The voicing of the chord, meaning that the order that the notes in the chord are placed and where they are placed in terms of higher and lower, is what we call a Chicago stack. And you will hear Chicago stacks used often in techno music. Just thought I'd throw that in there. Maybe Bubba and Catfish will get out on the dance floor for you as I turn it back to them right now.
I thought we were bad at promotion. People were like, hey, let's give you some money. And we're like, no, we're just going to send you more stuff. But Bubba, when Double M starts a segment saying there's not much interesting that he has to say, that is rough. You're gonna start off and say, I've got so many interesting things for you this week.
We love it. We love Double M. Once again, you can find him at Musical Concepts on Twitter. Follow his great podcasts like Lilibit Podcast. We were mentioning about The Crown, and he just did some great coverage of Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power on his Bustin' Blockbuster podcast feed. So search for those. Catfish, you know where we need to go now.
Where is it,
We
Bubba?
need to go down to Grief Kargas Bounty Hunter Guild and figure out who's going to win the puck this week. I understand that Grief told you what this week's battle is going to be about.
Yeah, he said, would you rather pass peacefully like Olaf or go down fighting and taking people with you?
I'll go first. And so I've got 2 options. Pass peacefully or go down fighting. I have broken my foot. And it destroyed my life. I couldn't walk for a couple of months, and then I had to have physical therapy to remind myself how to walk because my foot was so messed up. And so you're telling me there's a way I can avoid getting fried on my feet. Let's go, Olaf. You and I, ride or die. Let's pass peacefully. That is what I'm saying, because if you destroy your feet or your knees or your ankles, any way that helps you with mobility, you're in deep trouble. Olaf and I were passing peacefully. Ooh, yeah.
Boom. I mean, that's a pretty good answer, Bubba.
Thank you.
But it's not the right answer. The right answer is go down fighting and taking people with you.
No.
Have them remember your name. And by remember your name, I say remember it for the brief seconds they die before you do. You say my name. Say my name. And then you say, tell them Catfish sent you when you get to hell.
I don't know if I can get all of that out before I'm electrocuted via my face.
Well, that's
something shorter than
you're going
Catfish sent me.
peacefully. You're not going down fighting.
Oh, okay. Okay, I can say that. Listeners, do you have a preferred way to go? Do you have a Mandolicisious line of the episode, or do you want to tell Double M that he does a great job on his musical analysis? You can tell us down in the YouTube comments or at Double PHQ. Catfish, I'm glad that you understood this episode perfectly and you have no questions at all. I'm so good.
Well, I'm sorry, Bubba. I do have a double C.
If this doesn't feature two words that begin with the letter C, I don't know what to do. So what is a double C?
It's a catfish question. Everybody knows that. All right, so Bubba, you highlighted earlier in the episode, even I didn't realize that you noted this before I asked my catfish question because we've had so much crossover between Game of Thrones and this show. So I thought, will Davos Skulton be played by the same person who played Davos Seaworth on Game of Thrones, Liam Cunningham? We don't see him here, Bubba. Could it be Liam Cunningham?
That would be wonderful. I don't know what that wonderful actor Liam Cunningham has been up to since he was on Game of Thrones. He certainly is a working actor, been in a million things. Would Tony Gilroy, this is the one reason why I would say no, would Tony Gilroy dare come up with a character name as a fun wink to an actor's role on Game of Thrones? I'm going to say that doesn't seem like the kind of thing Tony Gilroy would do. And number one, he doesn't seem to like putting in droids or aliens in his shows just because that's a Star Wars thing. So I will say no. Sadly, we won't see Liam.
All right. But he doesn't mind characters from Game of Thrones. So there you go.
That is true. Okay. Warm up those vocal cords, Catfish, because it's time for...
La, 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 la.
Andor, what's that secret you're keeping?
What question do you want answered in the next episode, or what do you need explained to you about this episode? Bubba, do you have a secret you want to know about?
Well, the question I need answered is where are Syril and Dedra going on their honeymoon?
Oh, man.
Or Dedra, excuse me. I always do mess that up. Dedra, where are you and Syril going for the honeymoon? That's my question for this week.
I assume it's to oversee some prison planet. Bubba, I couldn't help it. You see how much we love our boy Sad Sack Swooning Syril. And my question is, this secret I need to know.
Okay. How
he manages to keep, and I don't know if the word is thriving or just surviving. How does he manage to survive his own ego / overreach next week, Bubba? I cannot wait to see what does Syril do next.
He cannot be stopped. You can't stop him. You can only hope to contain Syril. He is the best. But what is really the best, awkward podcast transition.
Oh, that's a perfect transition.
Is listeners, your wonderful feedback. And as we always say, this episode's only been out a few hours, but we already have your thoughts on episode 9. So Sean Gregan, who's at HeyRef on Twitter, we love him.
He's also our insider on the set for the first season.
That's true. Do you know that you gave this episode a 9? I was real low at a 6. Sean gave this episode 8 double S's out of 10.
Double S's?
Yeah. Stalking Syrils.
Everyone's on the Syril train.
Now, Sean does say his biggest question from this week's episode is how big or small is Syril's mom, Edie's cookbook? She only seems to serve oversized Cocoa Puffs. How hard is it to make 2 different meals a day? What do you think about that? About Hey Ref, Sean Gregan's?
Sean, she is too busy doing what I like to call double S, snooping on Syril. She's too busy to cook full meals. All she can do is bring out some blue milk and some cereal and get it going on.
Now, we were talking about, hey, nobody's listening. That's the episode title. Nobody's listening. Andor's telling them, hey, we can make plans to escape this prison. Nobody's listening. And somebody by the name of Sam the Sham, who's at ScammyManX on Twitter, replied to us and said, "Bruh, nobody's listening. Don't you get it that nobody was listening to Mon Mothma's plea for help in the Senate?" Ooh, very good.
Can I slightly disagree? I think unfortunately for her, enough people were listening. She'd been better off if no one was listening to her.
Well, that's true. Now, let me also say we got a bit of feedback from our good friend Laura McMillian, who's at Mesocat on Twitter. Laura wrote, "Wow, Andor just keeps getting better." Guess for her rating, Catfish, she said this episode is a 10 out of 10. And
she promised it would be.
She says, "All I see are more 10s in the remaining episodes. Though the Empire has always been portrayed as bad, they are now absolutely terrifying. Kudos to the writers." And she also says, she said to our good buddy Double M, she said, "The music in the end credits is beautiful in this episode." Thank you, Laura.
Harley Camille, and Harley Camille, who commented on episode 8. She said, "We have always loved the rebellion and the rebel characters in Star Wars. I find it uncomfortable to have to dislike the rebels for wanting to kill Andor. Not so black and white."
What do you think about that, Catfish? You have Luthen's assistant, Clea, and now you have Cinta, and I assume Vel by association, who are rebels, aka the good guys, and they want to kill Andor. Are you comfortable with that? Are you okay with that? Does that make you dislike those characters?
Let me ask you a question, Bubba, and I think you'll know. If you answer it truthfully, you'll know my answer. At this point, is Andor a rebel?
The enemy of my enemy is my friend. I don't know if that means the enemy of my enemy is my fellow rebel. So
is he committed rebel?
No, he is not. He is not at all. He's a lookout for number one kind of guy.
Then he can go.
Oh, man. Now, somebody on Twitter who's known as S. Cody responded to Harley Camille's comments about, liking these characters who want to kill Andor. And S. Cody wrote, "This stuff isn't pretty. It's the most adult show on Disney Plus just because of the themes. This isn't space fantasy, it's space noir. I like how Star Wars is so big that different stories can come from different genres." So that's Cody's take. Any thought? Do you feel this is space noir, Catfish?
I wouldn't call it space noir, but it is definitely more of a, we always say, and, even the creator said it, that this is like a space Western, but this is, instead of like a space bonanza, this is more like a space Unforgiven.
Very good. I love that analogy. Good work, Catfish. Now, we did get some feedback on YouTube about, not this episode, because we haven't even posted on YouTube yet, but about episode 8. And somebody named LaRote said, "These acronyms and abbreviations are really annoying." Ouch.
Oh, Bubba, you really need to cut down on that.
Did you notice that LaRote used a double A, acronyms and abbreviations?
No, a triple A, acronyms, abbreviations, annoying.
Love it.
I think LaRote that's a hidden tacit approval of the triples.
Thank you so much. Now, Ronald on YouTube said, "The conversation between Luthen and Saw Gerrera in episode 8 is a masterpiece in screenwriting. Luthen is trying to butter up Saw, but then he's trying to batter his ego into getting him to bite and take this job. At the same time, Saw is right on the money when he talks about the political state of the scattered rebel cells." Ronald says, "I love that. What are you, Luthen?" And he believes Luthen's answer is the most truthful thing that Luthen said on the show so far. "I think Luthen will live, unlike what Catfish says, but his position will be compromised." What do you think about Ronald's thought?
Well, I certainly think it's more thoughtful than mine, so I'll go with Ronald's answer instead of mine.
All righty.
And we have someone named Aegis said, "An episode featuring Andor's incarceration can hardly be called filler. But the storytelling format of Andor isn't episodic, and therefore where each episode ends feels arbitrary. Andor is meant to be binged."
That is, I 100% agree. Now, we are a podcast that have always talked about episodes by episodes and rating episodes on their own, but there's nothing I can dispute with that. You're exactly right. This show is meant to be binged, without question.
All right, and then on Facebook, even though this feels like one of our loyal listeners is responding directly to LaRotte, it's Dan Hickling says, "The double M
Double M.
Mounting menace continues. Not only do we have Double D,
Double D.
Darth Dedra, and a Triple S,
Triple S.
circus shower sightings to deal with, but our Double G,
Double G.
Growing Galaxy, now has a quadruple F.
Uh-oh. Quadruple F.
His foot fetish fraternity, as well as another quadruple P.
Quadruple P.
Aaron's positively pernicious proverb, charity starts and ideally ends at home. That is Perrin 1:1.
Perrin, Book 1, Chapter 1, Proverb 1. Thank you very much, Dan. That is great feedback. Listeners, we only do this show so we can talk to great listeners like you. I've said it all podcast long. Say it with me. If you want to leave a comment on YouTube, go down in the comments. Please give us a like, give us a comment, subscribe if this is the type of content you like. Reach out to us on social media at DoublePHQ on Twitter and Instagram, Facebook.com/DoublePHQ. My name's Bubba. You can find me on Twitter myself at Fit and Trim. That's FITTENTRIM at Fit and Trim on Twitter.
And I am Catfish. You can hit me up at CJGman67 on Twitter. And we will talk to you next week on
Parsec Passion. Parents Parsec Passion.
Oh no, Perrin's so sad. See, Perrin's so sad. He was like, I was number one for a while, but he was double S'd.
Double S'd.
Surpassed by Sharon. I mean, there's so many S's. It's so good.